What's going on YouTube? In today's video we're going to be showing you how to do top damage, top DPS, and also win most of the games in PvP in Guild Wars 2. Let's get straight into it. I'm using the warrior class. You can use two set of weapons in Guild Wars 2. So your first weapon is going to be the great sword, and your second weapon, which is your main weapon, is the long bow. Let's start with the PvP build. Go ahead and click on the build right on top if you're in the Heart of Mist. Let's go ahead and check the Amulet, Rune, and Sigils. To access the option, just go to Hero Equipments and there will be a small two swords icon. Click on it. Firstly, let's check out the Amulet. There are two choices here. You can either go for the Demolisher Amulet with a solid amount of power, precision, and ferocity with additional 500 toughness. The toughness might be needed here in PvP because you don't want to be too squishy. You can't get away when being swapped to. Just remember, the more deaths you have, the less the damage that you will do in the game. The next amulet is the Berserker Amulet. It has no toughness, but it has more power, 100 less precision, which equals to crit chance, a much higher ferocity, which equals to crit damage. So if you want to go all out, the Berserker Amulet will be your choice. Depending on your playstyle too, if you're dying a lot, then the Demolisher Amulet might be more suitable for you. For the Rune, I'll be leaving you two choices. If you're playing slightly defensive, Rune of Holbrak will be more suitable. For more offensive playstyle, Rune of Rage will be better if you want to maximize your damage. Check the stats on the right side of your character sheet to see which stats that you desire, and also depending on your playstyle, whether you're dying a lot or not. Alright, let's talk about Sigils. For your Great Sword Sigil, firstly you want to use Sigil of Stagnation, which will cripple nearby foes if swapped to this weapon while in combat. And the next one you want to use is the Sigil of Escape. This will remove movement impairing effects from yourself when swapping to this weapon. So in combination of this sigil with the stagnation one, it will basically whoever's that are swarming you or trying to pin you down, they'll be crippled and you yourself be free from any cripple, and you can use like whirlwind attack abilities to get away from them. Alright, for your bow sigil, the first sigil you want to use Sigil of Separation. You will deal 5% extra damage, targets more than 500 distance away. Very handful in especially world versus world. If you're very far away from the target, the more damage that you'll be doing. The next sigil is Sigil of Exploitation. You will deal 5% extra damage to targets below 50% health. 50% is huge. It's like half of anyone's health, and you'll deal extra 5% damage to them. Alright, equipments do not really matter in Guild Wars 2. You can use any equipments, even white, green, or with various stats. As long as you equip them in every slot, it'll be sufficient enough to be on par with everyone else in the PvP. This only applies in the structured PvP, such as the arena or the battlegrounds, but in world versus world, your gear and weapon will really matter. Alright, for the PvP build, I will use the build that is accessible to everyone, which is including the free version, because some of the version are not accessible in the free version. So the builds are Strength, Tactics, and Arms. Let's start with the first build of Strength. We're gonna choose Brave Strike. Movement skills grant stability when used. So when you're using a movement speed ability such as the whirlwind attack to get away from foes, you'll gain stability, which means you can't be stunned, you can't be pulled, feared, and all that. The next trait that we're going to be using is Forceful Greatsword. Even though Greatsword is not our main weapon, however, the stats are still there even if we swap to our bow. So we need the extra power and also chance to gain might on critical strike. The last trait for strength is Berserker's Power. You will gain increased strike damage when you use a burst skill. This damage increases based on your adrenaline. So let's say you have maximum adrenaline, you'll gain increased strike damage the most. Alright, next, let's go to the tactics. The first tactics trait that we're gonna take is Leg Specialist. Other traits in this tree is not really lead us to no choice but to choose this trait, but it does give us a slight advantage, which means that we will deal increased strike damage to foes affected with movement impairing conditions. Which means if our allies slow the target, we still deal more damage to them. Plus, in our greatsword ability, there's a ability called Blade Trail, which you can toss your weapon towards the enemy. This will cripple the target, which will immobilize them as well. Alright, the next trait in tactics is Warrior's Cunning. This will deal increased strike damage to foes above the health threshold. Also deal more damage to foes with the barrier. So it's really good for full HP players and also players with barriers. And the final trait for tactics is the Vigorous Shouts. All your shout skills gain reduced recharge and heal allies as well. Gain healing power based on your power. And this is really neat when you cast that for Great Justice. It has a reduced cooldown and also heal your allies. Alright, now let's go to arms. Your first arm trait will be Opportunist. You gain fury and adrenaline when you immobilize your target. You do have an ability on your bow, which is Pin Down, that will immobilize the target. Other traits are not that attractive, so we're going to choose this one. The next trait is Thundering Burst. Burst kills inflict vulnerability if they hit and inflict additional vulnerability if the attack is a critical hit. So this is huge for your combustive shot. The final trait that you're going to choose is Furious. Critical hits grants both adrenaline and gain a stacking condition damage effect. So whenever you crit, you'll gain more adrenaline to build up so you can do to burst. So this complements the earlier trait, Sundering Burst. Alright, now let's talk about your abilities. Your first longbow ability is Dual Shot, which will shoot a pair of arrows at your foe. This is your main ability that will generate adrenaline. You should spam this ability with your second ability, Fan of Fire. His second ability is, well, Fan of Fire. Fire a spread of 3 flaming arrows burning your foes. This ability is really good if you're targeting multiple enemies, even if they group up, it will deal tons of damage to them. The next ability is Arcing Arrow. It'll shoot a slow arcing arrow that explodes on impact. It doesn't slow your enemy, but it will create like a volley of arrows dropping from the sky slowly. This ability is really good when you pair it with your AoE abilities, such as Combustive Shots and Fan of Fire, when dealing with enemies in group. The next ability is Smoldering Arrow. This will shoot an arrow that explodes and impact and blinding foes. So when you get hit by this ability, your character basically will be blinded, which means that your attacks will be missed until the blind effect is gone. It's really a good ability to reduce incoming damage from your enemies. The next ability that we're going to talk about is Pin Down. Fire an arrow that bleeds and immobilize your target. This is one of my favorite ability. Basically, you can pin down an enemy and also bleeds them. While they're bleeding, you can pop all your cooldowns and then do all kind of AoE attack and spam that Fan of Fire and your Dual Shot. It's very useful for kiting as well. In any event that you're being chased down, you can just shoot this pin down and then keep kiting them away from yourself. Then when they're back away, you can keep doing damage and rinse and repeat. The next ability is your burst ability, Combustive Shot. Ignite target area, burning nearby foes. Effect increases with adrenaline level. So if you have maxed adrenaline, this ability will be the most deadly it burns AoE targets. Pair this ability with Arcing Arrow when you have all your cooldowns up, it will be very devastating. Alright, for your first skill, I use Mending, just a simple heal. It'll remove conditions and also heal itself. I prefer Mending compared to other healing abilities because it heals a lot, like for 6k, and also it removes all your conditions, all the dots on you. The next ability, Take It Off, is one of my favorite ability. It cures conditions on yourself and also allies. It also breaks stun. So use this ability to break out from CT and then quickly swap your greatsword, use whirlwind attack, and dash away from the enemies. So the last 3 skill slots are used for Great Justice, which is your shot. The next one is Signet of Fury. Passive will improve your precision. While active, you gain adrenaline and improve your precision and ferocity, and Signet of Rage, which passively gives you adrenaline, and during activation will give you fury, might, and also swiftness. So usually I pop these three abilities before entering a combat and then just unload every single skill. Basically the rotation is make sure all your abilities are on cooldown and keep spamming the dual shot and fan of fire. So for the great sword abilities, I basically use most of them to escape or to rush into combat. The most important ones are whirlwind attack and also rush. But be careful when you use rush. Sometimes it'll just charge you the other way around. And then your desired direction. You have an emergency ability Blade Trail to immobilize or cripple the enemy. And the rest of your melee ability are not important unless you really need to go and hit a low HP target or you're about to execute somebody. And a lot of you are asking, why is it a range warrior? Why not melee? The reason is this warrior PvP guide is for general use. So in world versus world, you're facing hundreds of opponents. The range spec will be more favorable and you can do much more damage and contribute to your team this way. Alright, I'll be leaving you guys with gameplay footage, with tips and tricks, rotation, all those juicy information that you need. Be sure to hit that like and also that bell icon. Good luck, and I'll see you guys next time.
For great justice! Great justice instruct! You've lost the dock! Feel the thrill! The bazaar is yours! Your enemy took the archway! Adrenaline rising! For great justice! For great justice! They've taken the bazaar from you! We've taken the archway! Great justice! Kill them all! Impression. The bazaar is yours! Ready! Be ready to give the signal and return fire once the cannons are loaded! Strong! That's the stuff! For great justice! For great justice! Cannons loaded! Ring the bell to signal them to fire! Blue team, ring the bell! Fire all cannons! Great justice! rock's been captured.
For great justice. Faster. For great justice.
The bazaar is yours.
Rising.
Anyone? Help!
You've taken the archway.
Kill them all. For great justice. Adrenaline full. Kill them all. Gaining adrenaline.
You've lost the dock.
For great justice. Faster.
Be ready to give the signal and return fire once the cannons are loaded.
Shake it off. Gaining great justice.
Cannons loaded. Ring the bell to signal them to fire.
Strong.
You've lost the
Kill
dock.
them all. Adrenaline full.
Blue team ring the bell. Fire all cannons.
Great justice. Ready for action. Great justice. For great justice.
Your enemy took the archway.
For great justice. Shake it off. Kill shot. Great justice.
They've taken the bazaar from you.
Great justice. I make a pretty good team.
Be ready to give the signal and return fire once the cannons are loaded.
Great justice.
signal them to fire! Red team ring the bell. Fire all cannons.